throwing a ball into a hoop. It's a game that's been around for thousands of years, but in 1891, a man named James Naismith took a soccer ball and a peach basket and turned the ball through a hoop game into what many considered to be the only sport truly created in the United States. It had a bumpy start, but grew faster than any other sport in history. Here's the incredible story of the creation of basketball and the incredible man who created it.
Let's dig into this.
Brick.
James Naismith was born on November 6, 1861 in Ontario, Canada, and grew up on his family's farm there. He studied physical education at McGill University in Montreal, where he played rugby, lacrosse, soccer, and football. He was also a talented gymnast. After receiving his bachelor's degree in 1888, he taught physical education at McGill University and became its first director of athletics.
Naismith decided to move to the U.S. in 1890 to study at the YMCA International Training School located in Springfield, Massachusetts. This school would later become Springfield College. The YMCA, or Young Men's Christian Association, had been created in 1844 in London with the goal of promoting Christian values and developing healthy minds, bodies, and spirits. It spread like wildfire, and within a few years, clubs in cities around the world provided men with social and athletic programs unavailable anywhere else at the time. Naismith completed the YMCA Physical Director Training Program in 1891 and joined the faculty of the training school the same year.
Winters in Massachusetts were brutal, and the YMCA was a popular place to spend time. Legend says after a particularly bad winter storm, forcing everyone to stay indoors for days, Naismith's classes started to get rowdy and bored. The usual winter programs of calisthenics, marching, and gymnastics just weren't as exciting as the summer sports like soccer, football, lacrosse, or baseball. Naismith decided it was time for an indoor sport that would burn up excess energy and be physically challenging, but could also be played safely indoors. After discussing it with the director of physical education, he was given the green light in 14 days to come up with something that wouldn't be too rough and wouldn't take up a lot of space.
Naismith asked for the building custodian for 2 square boxes. They couldn't find any, but they did find 2 peach baskets, which they nailed to the railing of the balcony at each end of the gymnasium. The railing was about 10 feet high, and the ball could be retrieved from the basket by someone on the balcony. He split the boys into 2 teams of 9 players each and told them the object of the game was to get the ball into the other team's basket. There were no other rules.
In 1939, Naismith was interviewed by WOR Radio in New York City about that first basketball game. He said it was an all-out fight, with boys tackling, kicking, and punching each other. One boy got knocked out cold. Several ended up with black eyes, and one had a dislocated shoulder. Not exactly a safer inside sport, but everyone loved it so much they kept pestering Naismith to play again. So back to the drawing board he went.
His 13 rules of basketball were typed on 2 pieces of paper and posted in the gym. And some of the rules are quite surprising compared to the game today. First of all, there was no running with the ball, period. Until the addition of dribbling in 1901, the ball had to be batted or thrown from the spot where it was caught. The game was made up of 2 halves, each 15 minutes long, with 5 minutes rest period in between. And the teams could be anywhere from 3 to 40 players. The official NBA rules are now 65 pages long.
The first public basketball game was written about in the Springfield Republican on March 12, 1892. The YMCA instructors played against their students. The students won 5-1. People came to watch. Over 200 spectators filled the little YMCA gym, and the game of basketball was a huge hit.
It took less than a year for women to take up the new sport. In 1892, Smith College introduced the game in its physical education program, and it spread quickly to other universities. In 1896, the first intercollegiate women's game was played. Men played university basketball as well. The first NCAA tournament was played in 1939 at Northwestern University. 8 teams were entered, and the University of Oregon was the first NCAA champion. Now 68 teams play in the NCAA tournament. Picking your bracket is a national obsession that even presidents get in on, and popularity of March Madness is used to sell everything from pizzas to televisions.
Basketball grew so quickly that only 12 years after the first game was played, it was introduced at the 1904 Olympics in St. Louis as a demonstration event, making it even more popular. Men's basketball was recognized as a medal event at the 1936 Olympics. It would take 40 more years for women's basketball to be named a medal event at the 1976 Montreal Olympics.
The first professional basketball leagues were created in 1898, just 6 years after the first game. The National Basketball League had just 6 teams and only lasted until 1904. It would take more than 30 years for the sport to go professional again, with a 13-team league started in 1937 owned by Goodyear, Firestone, and the General Electric Company. Then, in 1946, the NBA as we know it was created. NBA players are, as of 2022, the best paid athletes in all of sports on average. And it's a big business. The NBA generates revenues of over $6 billion a year.
And what about James Naismith? Did the inventor of basketball become rich and famous? Well, in 1898, 7 years after that very first YMCA game of basketball, he was hired as the first men's basketball coach at the University of Kansas. Unfortunately, he's the only coach in the history of the program with a losing record, 55 wins and 60 losses. He reportedly never cared much about the business of basketball. For him, it was all about the athletics.
He would become a professor at Kansas and founded the Phi Sigma Epsilon fraternity there, serving as the counselor for 16 years until his death. He was against segregation, and even though he did not have the power to put African American players on his team, he did succeed in getting students access to areas that had been off limits, including the school swimming pool. An amazing achievement in the 1930s, he wrote 3 books, with his Basketball, Its Origins and Development, published in 1941, 2 years after his death from a brain hemorrhage.
Even though he had the worst record as a coach at the University of Kansas, he is still a hero there. Naismith Drive and Naismith Hall are named for him. Lawrence, Kansas, where the university is located, has a beautiful statue of the coach. He was inducted into the Basketball Hall of Fame in 1959 and the College Basketball Hall of Fame in 2006. Incredibly, he is also in at least 8 other sports halls of fame.
Naismith may not have gotten rich, but his list of the original 13 rules of basketball sold at auction in 2010 for $4.3 million. Purchased by a former University of Kansas student, they are now on display at the university, and the most die-hard fans of the sport seem to know the name of the incredible inventor, even if they don't know the incredible story of basketball.
We hope you enjoyed this video. Please don't forget to like and subscribe.
And we'll see you on the next one.